Good afternoon. My name is Eric Doyle and I'm delighted to be your host for today's OGV Energy Live, a brand new interactive show aiming to deliver news and insight from the energy sector by bringing to life the UK's leading energy publication, OGV Energy magazine. Each month we're going to have interviews and discussions with our partners from the publication, and we'll be updating you on all the latest news and opinions from our fully interactive platform, which is right here. So don't be shy. If you're out there, like Beth and Doug have, jump in with your comments. We've got some fantastic guests and you've got them at your disposal for the next hour and 20 minutes. So let's get those lovely comments coming in and we'll be able to see them on the right-hand side there. So please do that. So this month, as we've seen from the magazine, is innovation and technology as the subject matter. So we're going to be welcoming guests and contributors who featured in the publication, starting with our headline guest, none other than Luca Corradi, the Innovation Network Director from the Net Zero Technology Centre. And then we're going to move on to our industry spotlight section, where we're going to have companies at the very sharp end of innovation and technology in their sector, including Paula Doyle, Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Cognite, Phil Brading, Chief Information Officer at SOAR Group, Stuart Harvey, Director of Digital Innovation at ProServe, and Botan Osman, CEO at Restrata. We're then going to be returning to one of our regular features on the show, which we all know and love by now, is our Market Watch segment with Westwood Global Energy Group and the Energy Industries Council, bringing us up to date with exactly what's going on in the markets. Before doing a roundup of OGV Community news with Mike Adams from Norwell Edge, Andy Reid from Safer Training, and finishing with John Bloomfield from Full Motion. So without further ado, let's get started with our headline guest. With a career spanning 21 years with Accenture in program and change management on complex projects, to Global Energy Network Hub Network Lead, through to Managing Director of Energy UK North Sea and Managing Director of Asset Operations Consulting. You may also find him occasionally doing some Associate Senior Lecturer work at RGU on the MBA programme on managing change in organisations within the oil and gas industry for their Aberdeen Business School. For the last 5 years, many of you will know him, the work that he's been doing to connect the offshore energy industry with a network of external technology centres and experts from industry, governments, academia, to connect problems and solution in his role as Innovation Network Director at Net Zero Technology Sector. When not doing all of this, you might bump into him on one of his rare motorbike rides around Scotland, or maybe on a ski lift in the Alps. It is, of course, the wonderful Luca Corradi. Luca, welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Eric. A great introduction. Yeah, I wish I do more of that ski but recent years haven't happened. But the motorbike is ready for the next round.
It's there. It's in the garage. Whenever you want to go and do the North Coast 500 or whatever it might be, you can definitely do that. How are you these days, just generally?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, totally. So let's dive in. The last couple of years, where do you start? How's the last couple of years been for you?
Well, for me, they've been very exciting. We can't mention the last couple of years been a transition, to say the least, traumatic. If you look at what happened, Brexit first, but then the pandemic, and of course now a terrible war in Ukraine. But then on the closer to home front, on the energy front, has been an exciting couple of years, and we are seeing a rate of change. And you mentioned my work in change management before, but we've seen a rate of change probably I haven't seen before. Yeah, so yeah. You can just look at our name. We are the Net Zero Technology Centre. We used to be the Oil and Gas Technology Centre. Offshore Energy UK used to be Oil and Gas UK. The Centre for Energy Transition or the Energy Transition Institute at Robert Gordon used to be the Oil and Gas Institute, and we can go on. Yeah. And that was 2 years ago, and today is a different scenario. And do you see that? Don't be fooled. This is not rebranding, right? So
it's not rebranding. Yeah,
this is a symptom and a signal that the industry is indeed in transition.
Very much so. Yeah, that was going to be my question. Is you from the outside looking in, it'd be easy to say, that these institutions have just rebranded, but it's a complete reset, right? A complete reset in thinking and approach. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a reorientation rather than a reset or pivot, if you want, because I think what we need to remember is that the transition is a transition from one energy system to another energy system. It's not a simple transition from oil and gas to renewables. So we're transitioning from an energy system which is very based on fossil fuels, which of course has a tremendous impact for the climate and the planet, to an energy system which is based on a more diverse set of energy sources, which is heavily reliant on renewables, but renewables are about electricity, and then potentially reliable on hydrogen to compensate that, and carbon capture as well, to offset and to remove, mostly to remove emission from industrial sector. And in this system, oil and gas still has a role to play. Oil and gas will be there for the next 2 or 3 decades at least, if not more. And a lot of the product, actually, the oil and the gas is needed for the same production of those materials that make the zero carbon life possible, from the composite material, the carbon fibers, and everything that goes from the electric vehicles up to the wind turbines. So there's a role there. And I think what we are seeing is the oil and gas sector and the industry as well playing this enabling role. We published a little more than a year ago an integrated energy vision report, and it shows the North Sea now, and what the North Sea could be and should be in 2030, 2040, 2050. And you see the big bubble of value for the economy and jobs being in oil and gas now, and little dots for everything else, because it is very early stages. And over time, this big bubble becomes smaller, but the other one gets bigger. So I think the message there is 2 messages, actually. One is, it is a transition. It's not going to happen overnight, and it shouldn't happen overnight, because that would be a problem. But it is happening, and we are starting to see it happening. And the second message is that it is an opportunity. So it is a moral obligation to change the energy system in the transition. But for the region, for the industry, it's an opportunity, because the overall size of the economy could be bigger than what it is now if we incorporate the benefit of developing hydrogen, carbon capture, and renewables. As long as we do it in the right way. There's an element of local content, local jobs, there's an element of where the manufacturing comes from, but the opportunity is actually there.
Very much so, very much so. Thank you for that. What a tremendous opener to set the scene. I'm just going to say hello to some of our viewers. We've got Doug Robertson, we've got Alex. Hello to Beth. I'll just put some up here because we can. Look at that. Hello to Matthew. Hi to everyone. This is really nice that you're all with us there. There's Susan Brown, who we know very well, who's very much into net zero and all of that. We've got Luca for about another 15 minutes. If you have a question for Luca, fire that question in, please, and we will put it to him. We've got some time worked in at the end. So please, any questions? Thanks for joining us, but stick your questions in there. So, Luca, you mentioned a few terms there. Just to clarify the true meaning and the true sense of this, because you've done a lot of work in this area for a long time. So what does transition actually mean, and what does net zero actually mean to everyone? There's a perception out there that this could possibly mean net zero means no oil and gas. There's a perception that it means a complete reliance on something. In your view, at the spearhead of this, what does transition mean, and what does net zero actually mean to us as people in the street?
So there's the energy transition, and there is the net zero transition, if you want. Well, so as I mentioned before, the energy transition for the industry means moving away from fossil fuels and into a net zero, energy system. Now, net zero energy system, contradicting what I just said, if you want, includes some fossil fuel, some oil and gas. The overall goal of net zero is no additional emission, no additional CO2 equivalent emission going to the atmosphere, because that is what creating greenhouse gases. That's what is creating global warming and creating all the problems. It doesn't really matter how we do it. Net zero is the ultimate goal.
Right.
Okay. Then to do so, we need it's tough, right? Because it impacts everyone. It's me and you producing emission, and we do that by using energy for our cars or our heating. We do that by what we eat, where our food comes from and how it is grown. It is how we heat our homes and etc. Right? So it's a tough transition that needs to happen at all levels.
Okay.
So we talked about the supply side before. Fossil fuel, carbon, oil and gas, hydrogen, etc. But there's a demand side that needs to drive the demand for this for oil and gas down. And in this transition, I think the UK and Scotland, are particularly well placed, because we got plenty of of wind,
Yeah.
obviously, and natural resources that can help producing that electricity, but also green hydrogen, and potentially export that, because we got the supply here, but the demand for that is down in London, is the rest of the UK, is in Europe. So making those connections would be extremely important. So it is an opportunity if we do it. That said, everybody's transitioning away. Everybody is investing in offshore wind, in hydrogen, in carbon capture. So I think we have an opportunity to lead the transition in the UK because we started early, because of the wealth of industry knowledge, skills, infrastructure, and etc. But everybody's moving the same direction, so we need to move faster to take that place, I think.
Yeah, totally. And even exactly, we're reliant on businesses, we're reliant on sectors. But as Susan says here, I could listen to Luca all day. Yes, removing carbon as much as we can from our daily lives. That extra step, than offsetting, is perfectly correct. I read it's related to this, but I read an article recently where it said, and I was staggered by the number, but by the end of this decade alone, that we're already well into, oil and gas companies will be spending approximately $15.6 billion on digital technologies as they look to overcome commercial, operational, and existential challenges. Do you believe that was always in the plan, or has this been an acceleration of this investment? Has it been pushed?
Well, specifically on digital technology, is a combination, right? So it's a mega trend. The digital transformation has been happening for the past 10 years, at least, if not more. But is in the oil and gas industry, in the energy industry, is only now really reaching a critical mass. There's been a survey done by the North Sea Transition Authority, which is the new name of the Oil and Gas Authority, given we were talking about changes before. That show how much the offshore energy industry is mostly in the early phases of digital adoption or digital revolution, and it's mostly pilots or specific single cases. I know you got a great speaker later. We can talk a bit more about this in Connect. But the digital revolution is a critical enabler of the net zero as well, because one of the first elements to reduce the emission is to optimize the consumption. And optimization of the consumption can do a lot with digital technology. Making the current gas turbines more efficient and burning fuel more efficient is a first step. Is almost the kind of the quick win that we need to activate immediately. And then at the same time, think, how do we decarbonize completely the power generation of the offshore installation? Because we need that oil and gas. We don't need the emission that come with it, the production emission. And at the moment, we're producing 18 megaton in the UK to power the platform and the part mostly, and then for venting and flaring and methane leaks as well, which is also not totally known. So while we still oil and gas for a while inside this transition, and the recent crisis has shown how much dependent we are from import, and luckily in the UK less than the rest of Europe. But still, you want to reassert and increase energy security, but at the same time, you don't want to increase emissions with that. And having control over our own emissions by making sure that they're the least possible, if not net zero, is a way to do that.
Very good, very good. Now, formerly Oil and Gas Technology Centre, now Net Zero Technology Centre. Can you give us an example of some of the projects that you're working on just now?
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty, and we have had more than 300 projects approved in these 5 years. With 86 field trials, and 36 are on the way. So a lot of that is really going to market and being available. But I can select maybe two if you want. One is on the existing side, so looking at the oil and gas industry in itself, and this problem of reducing the operation emission. One project I would like to mention is FlyLogix. So FlyLogix is basically measuring methane and measuring and quantifying methane with a drone flying around, unmanned drone flying around the platform. So the problem with the leaks is you don't know where they're coming from, and therefore you cannot put a sensor on a specific point. But these unmanned drones that fly around, and we've done tests with Shell, with with BP, with Total Energies, Equinor, TAC, and Harbour, and now we're looking to the next phase to set the standard for methane measurement within the industry, which is a crucial element to reduce that carbon footprint and the carbon intensity of the oil and gas we produce. So that's one in the, let's say, in the now, technology that we need now and technology that we need to apply to current operations offshore. Another example I can give you is a study that we're doing, which is actually the study of the backbone link. So Europe is looking at a European hydrogen backbone to transport hydrogen where you produce it from sunny places in the south of Europe or windy places in the north to where it's needed, the factory in Germany or other industrial places around Europe. So that backbone, that hydrogen backbone, I think we have an opportunity to link to it and take the potential green hydrogen or blue hydrogen we can produce in the UK and in Scotland in particular, thanks to the favorable conditions, from the source to the market. And so we're looking at how can we reutilize, repurpose the pipelines that are already offshore, and therefore instead of removing them in the commissioning, repurposing them to connect the production of green hydrogen from Scotland to the market in the south of the UK and in Europe. And that is a project part of an energy transition fund that from Scottish government that I think will unlock or has the potential to unlock a lot of value for the region and a lot of jobs as well. I can go on, but
I bet you could with the vast list of projects you've got going on. We've got a comment coming in here from Darren, which I think we can take. Let me have a little look here. Good afternoon, long reader of OGV and first time attendee of the show. I might have to put that back to get the full list of his questions. So, Luca gave an excellent brief on the energy transition. How can we get our politicians and media on board to form a long-term strategy? The North Sea and the personnel have borne the weight of the rash of policy changes. Any comments on that?
I think they are, and that's if I think this week we are expecting the long-term energy strategy from government, clearly accelerated by the recent event and the need to, as I said before, to bring back energy security into the equation of energy. The famous trilemma: we need to have affordable energy, clean energy, and secure energy. And over time, based on the geopolitics, you can have a bit more of attention to one of the three corners. Clearly, last year, COP26 has been a pivotal moment, and the UK and Scotland played an important role in accelerating that. But I think Darren is right in the need for a long-term strategy, because all these technologies require a lot of investment. And they're also long-term projects. So you create a wind farm or an oil and gas plant or a hydrogen production plant. That asset needs to be up and running for 30, 40 years sometimes. And it takes maybe 10 years to build. So you can't have a policy or a legislation that changes every 6 months. So the need for a long-term strategy to provide certainty to the investors and to the supply chain as well, because the supply chain, what makes a lot of the wealth of the UK is also the supply chain around the energy industry. So the supply chain needs to know where the projects are coming from, and if that day we're gonna stay and remain part of the strategy. So I think it's a good point, but I'm hopeful and crossing my fingers, because what we expect probably this week is a long-term energy strategy from base.
Okay, very good, very good. We got a lovely comment in there from from Eugene, talking about the lack of baseload in Southern Africa, as a lack of baseload, maybe any solutions available, which kind of leads me into the next question, is the fact that Net Zero Technology Centre, being right at the centre of this push for net zero, you take your collaborations, more than internally within the United Kingdom. I was quite surprised as to how far-reaching you are internationally. Can you tell us about your international collaborations?
Well, we have a number of them that are actually very, very interesting. So I mentioned COP26 before. So in November at COP, we launched, we had a summit bringing together 10 technology centers from around the world, from Brazil, Canada, both the oil side of Alberta and the Newfoundland offshore industry in the east, the United States with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and Australia with CSIRO and NERA, plus TNO in the Netherlands, and others that are joining now. But this group took part to this summit that we did in COP26, and we decided to announce them there an international study that is actually being conducted as we speak. Okay. So the goal is let's look at the oil and gas producing basin, and we have the experience of the North Sea, and of course then there is, as I said before, Brazil, US, Canada, etc. What are the different regions doing in order to achieve net zero? Which technologies are we betting on? Is it offshore wind? Like for us, is a lot of offshore wind. Australia is a more onshore wind and a lot of solar. Are we all investing in CCS and hydrogen? What came out of COP was an amazing similarities with some differences. So we're now putting together this analysis and understand what are the technology priorities. What can we do to collaborate to fill the gaps in this technology? Because all these technologies are relatively new, so they do work, but they work at a price point which is not affordable at the moment. They work with a reliability that is not that of a technology that has been in place for years and years. So there is a lot of opportunity to innovate, to reduce the cost and to improve the performance. And we can do that internationally wherever we have a common chance, or at the very least, we can share knowledge to accelerate the transition, because the clock is ticking, and we don't have much time if we want to keep the hope to stay within 1.5 alive.
Very good. We've got some lovely questions coming in. I'm actually, Daryl, I'm going to hold your question for another guest because I think we can circle back on that one. But just in closing, in the last few minutes that we have with you, Luca, what can individual companies and businesses be doing in this context? What positive action can businesses and companies be taking today?
Well, we started talking about the pace of change, right? So that we have seen in the past 2 years. So okay, the bad news is that the next 2 years will be even more dynamic, and those after that, again, there's an old saying that today is the slowest day of the rest of your life, because the change is happening at an even faster pace every day. So in this transition, clearly, as we said, governments and policies are the main driver, because we need that element of certainty, that direction, either the banning or the incentive or the regulation or creating a market. But then companies and businesses needs to be very aware not to be a passive passenger, needs to be on top of that. It might be time consuming for some, but it's important to be on top of these changes and understand and anticipate what does it mean for your business. So you need to embed agility in the system. You need to make a decision. Shall I invest in green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, CCS? What skills will be needed in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? We call it horizon scanning at the Net Zero Technology Center. It is what my team does, and we do it for the Net Zero Technology Center itself, which led, if you want, to the change in direction and name. But we also do that for industry, helping company make sense of these trends, helping them decide, all right, so my next strategy is going to be this or that. I'm going to invest more in hydrogen or in that. So it's about try to predict a little bit the future, or interpret, or be very, very agile and fast in reacting, because these are exciting but challenging and very dynamic times.
What a way to end it, just there perfectly, just on that. We thank you so much for giving up your time today to sort of headline this live on innovation and technology. Thank you so much for spending the time with us and answering our questions, and good luck in all that you're doing, and we hope to see you again at some point in the future. Thank you so much, Luca.
Thank you, Eddie. Looking forward to it, and have a nice rest of the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. See you soon. Ta-ta. Bye-bye. Wasn't that great? Luca Corradi there, everyone, from the Net Zero Technology Center, spearheading the start of our show. We're now moving on to the part of our show which carries from the work that Luca and his team are doing through to companies that are actually, in amongst all of this innovation and technology. So we are going to, by the magic of technology itself, we're going to bring in Phil Brading from Sword. We're going to bring in Stuart Harvey from ProServe. We're going to bring in Botan Osman from Ristrata. And we're going to bring in Paula Doyle from Cognite. Look at that. We're all on the screen. We made it.
Amazing.
You did. Quite incredible that we're here, but we are all here. It's lovely to have you here. Everyone okay?
Great.
Very good, thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. we have a fantastic group on screen right now with us. They're locked in for at least the next 20 minutes. Let's get some lovely questions to these people here that are at the forefront of the industry. If it's okay, I'm going to start with Phil. Is that all right?
Absolutely fine. Yes. Good afternoon.
Phil, it's lovely to see you from Sword Group. Do you want to just give us a little, for those who don't know, which I believe there's going to be very few people who don't know, what Sword Group's all about and what you guys focus on?
Absolutely. So my name's Phil Brading. I am the CIO for Sword Group in the UK. Great to be part of the event this afternoon. Thank you, Eric. My background is in oil and gas data, and I am responsible for data services and solutions that Sword delivers from our offices across the UK, in the Netherlands, and in the Houston. So Sword has been delivering technology and data services for to the energy industry for over 30 years, working with operators of all shapes and sizes, and importantly, all levels of maturity. We are the largest provider of digital services to the North Sea, and we focus on building pragmatic solutions to the energy industry's biggest challenges. So we try to do this by enabling our clients to capture, to manage, and to utilize data to make informed decisions, supporting that with modern ways of working and business engagement to give confidence about that decision-making process.
Beautiful. Absolutely fantastic. Right. So let's get straight to the heart of it. Let's look at the digital part of innovation, the importance of digital foundations and underpinning all of this movement in digital innovation. Your views on that, Phil?
Sure. Yeah. To me, digital foundations and data foundations are kind of interchangeable. And I'm a great believer in getting those strong data foundations in place first. But those foundations need to be intrinsically aligned with business need. So I think it's important to be clear what we mean by this foundation. And a recent UKCS data and digital maturity survey said it well. Governed, accessible, and connected data sets provide the basis for digital to add value. So data management and data ops are key pieces in that digital transformation journey. We know that energy gets a poorer return from its digital investment than perhaps other industries. And at Sword, we work in a number of verticals, and we can see that comparison. So I think one of the reasons for that is a lack of trust, in the data. We've seen that big software programs and data science and AI, they can be rolled out, but the data is sometimes lagging behind, and we can't trust the results. I think often we're busy hand cranking the reporting and the analytics behind the scenes, and it's not repeatable and it's not scalable. So we're looking to embed a number of different solutions within our data and digital services that deliver consistent and analytics ready data products.
So how do you take an organization who maybe hasn't understood how data, and perhaps some of our other guests can pull this through as well, how do you support customers in becoming data focused and data driven? How do you do that?
But I think we need to first look at what that data driven outcome is looking to achieve. That could be in HSE or in compliance or in operational efficiency or extending basin life. There's a myriad of business outcomes that we, and I'm guessing everyone around this table, is looking to support. So our business is no different. And we're looking to support our customers make those decisions. And I think within our business, we break down that approach into 3 layers. The first of those layers is that critical piece, is understanding wants and needs. It's a process you can't shortcut. For that engagement, to get the best possible view on customer direction, on their pain points, and ultimately where technology can improve the way of working. The middle layer to me is all around transformative services. Data management is included in that, but also the development of modern business apps and digital processes, ensuring that the business has the right tools, capabilities within a modern cloud secure platform where we can keep an eye on optimizing the costs and ensuring evergreen roadmaps. We're also talking about data hubs, putting trusted data at the fingertips of our users so that they've got analytics and they can do that through self-service. And I think then the final layer is the kind of environment that all sits in. What does it look like for an organization to be secure and compliant within that cloud platform? And of course, not every business is yet fully cloud enabled or cloud native. So we'll support that business with their legacy infrastructure for as long as it's needed. One example, we're looking to create modern integrated services, and we're thrilled this week to announce that Sword has acquired Ping Network Solutions. So they're specialists in that network and security systems integration and management, and that really adds another component, I think, to that layer where we're really supporting that environment. And I think if you think about it in those three different ways, then we can take people on a journey and really identify what their key pain points are and where they're going to get the most return from that initial piece of investment.
Thank you very much for that, Phil. Absolutely smashing. Remember, we've got this fantastic panel here. If you've got any questions for them, please put them in the chat. I might circle back to you, Phil, if we've got time at the end. Paula Doyle, we must be connected. We must be related at some point. I'm sure we go back to a Viking that came to County Carlow or something like that, or Wicklow or Wexford back in the day. And talking about travelling, Doyle's been in travelling. You've been jumping on and off of planes all week. How's it been getting back to travelling?
You know, it's great. I think, though, there's definitely not the same frequency as there was before with flights, but just the value of spending face-to-face time with people. It's just wonderful. So I was at EAGE yesterday. That was a great conference, and then kind of with some clients then in France yesterday morning as well. So it was a busy day, but it was wonderful. You know what we're doing, kind of the pace, and I think Luca said this very well, like the pace of acceleration. And the level of innovation that's needed, like the face-to-face interactions it's just really hard to beat. And I love it. I think I'm a bit old-fashioned in that respect. But,
quite right,
so
and there's nothing wrong with that. More power to it. The Cognite headline, turn industrial data into business value. Can you break that down for us at all?
I think Phil really touched on some of the challenges there. You know, what I'm trying to explain to people who are not in the industry, and this is not just specific to oil and gas, this is asset heavy industry generally. I kind of like them to think back to how it was in the early 90s, you know, where today we just pull up our phones, we can find out where a place is, how long it'll take us to get there, almost in real time, you know, reviews, menus, phone numbers, the whole thing. But if you go back to the 90s, you know, you had your phone stuck on the wall of your house, you had the golden pages somewhere else, you know, you'd have to ask your granddad how long it would take for you to get to the restaurant, what was the traffic like this time of the year. So it was a really slow, cumbersome process actually to get data. And then also you didn't have all the data accessible to you, you know, it just wasn't there. And literally for me, that's where industry is. So we have absolutely brilliant people working in the industry who have one kind of set of tools and speed with their data and with their systems in their personal lives, and then a completely different reality when they step foot on the plant floor. And this is what we're really about changing in Cognite. It's about putting the technology in place that is going to enable this data-driven transition of industry. And this is a lot about, you know, putting, I think as Phil said it, putting trusted data into the right people's hands, and also contextualize data, because that's really the key, because it's not enough just to have tons of data that you can trust. You need to have the relationships between the data. So you need to be able to ask your data things like, you know, how many of my pumps failed in the last 6 months, or what of all of my global wells that I drilled in the last 5 years had this shape and went through these rock formations and were producing at above average rates, you know, 5 years on. So there's a lot of insights in the data. We're all about like how to unlock it. And I think Phil also put it very well when he talked about the focus on business value, because you can go into a back room or a dark room or a basement and do data management like from day one and do it perfectly and come out 3 years later with kind of like a catalog and a set and a plan. But actually you have to start right now on delivering on the business transformation. And some of the things that we've done, you know, it's like what Luca said, you know, turbine optimization, a wonderful case where you can get just really short-term value. In a matter of weeks, you can have your turbines optimized, kind of spitting out less CO2. We've done lots of really interesting things around like just raw material reduction, chemical reduction, other types of emissions reduction. So there's a ton that you can do with what you have today, which is nice because it's actually like a short-term fix. And I think what the world needs now is a lot of short-term fixes.
There's thank you for that. It's brilliant. There's a lovely bit in your article in this month's magazine where you talk about companies approaching digitization too narrowly and struggling to scale it. and that really caught my eye. Just
Yeah.
really quickly in closing, why is that? Why is there a struggle to scale it, and why are most companies approaching it too narrowly?
I think there's two reasons for that. One is that we get very bought up by this sparkly object. So the AI, the specific data science use case. This is what we really focus on, without thinking about and then doing POCs and MVPs and kind of like spitting them out like a new and innovate, without actually thinking about what it takes to industrialize and scale them up. And industrialization and scaling up of the valuable solutions, that's actually where the ROI is. And if you don't have the foundation in place, and this is not like a big massive like let's dig the foundation for 5 years, as the technology is there, the know-how is there, but if you don't have that in place, then you'll never go from point to point or single cases out to scale. And if you don't get out to scale, then you're not able to transform. And we've seen companies who've been really successful at this, but the truth is the vast majority of the industrial players are not successful, and it's really, really holding them back when it comes to realizing value, and also I think really holding them back when it comes to inspiring their organizations and their peers as to what's possible with digital. So, I'm really passionate about this because I know we can do things a whole lot faster, a whole lot bigger. And I really feel like there is such a responsibility on us in the industry to do all that we can to kind of accelerate the way that we know that we need to accelerate.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Paula. We'll try and come back to you. I've got a question for the group as a whole right at the end. Botan Osman, great to see you here, CEO of Restrata. Botan, for those who haven't heard of you or didn't read your wonderful article in the magazine, shame on them. Can you just give us a bit of a reminder of what it is that you guys do?
Eric, thanks. We're Restrata. Our focus is really using technology to keep workforces safer and assets more secure. We've been doing that for 15 years, using a myriad of methods, whether it's our emergency response centre in Aberdeen, where we serve over 50% of the UK's outsourced response for companies. So when something goes wrong offshore, our centre responds, and we have technologies in that centre that help. Or whether it's more recently with since 2019 with the launch of the Restrata platform, which is our SaaS-based platform that enables companies to manage their safety of their workforces on remote sites, helps them manage incidents and crises, and also enables them to understand what's going on across the board. Very connected to what Paula just said, which is that we find that in our private lives, we expect to understand the exact location of the burger that is en route for lunch using the app. But when we move around,
34 seconds to delivery.
And we watch it depending on how hungry we are, and we expect the updates. But in our industrial lives, when we look at the movement of a £5 million asset, we're okay that we kind of sort of know where it might be and if it's on the way, or we're okay with understanding roughly how many people might be on site, and we can kind of figure out through manual methods what's happening. And that's the siloed nature of the transformation that's been happening for the last 15 to 20 years, and I think there's a lot of will there. And for us, we talk about connected resilience, and that is when you look at the resilience of an organization. It starts with understanding how do we keep our people safe, how do we keep our operations more secure, but at the same time, all of that requires me understanding what's actually happening in my operation. So, if I'm running a country operation and I have 20 sites, and all of those sites are using different systems, no matter how digitized they are, and if I'm running an incident and I need to get data from all those systems, that's valuable hours that I'm losing on a day-to-day basis. So we help companies really focus on digitizing those day-to-day operations to enable them, when there's a safety incident or a security incident, for them to respond immediately. And of course, when something goes wrong, every minute matters. So that's what we do on through the software front. Sorry, go ahead, Greg.
No, that's lovely. I just in the article, which was an excellent article, you mentioned an addition or a new product release as part of the Restrata platform. It's the Incident and Crisis Manager. My question was, how do you think that's going to help digitize emergency response?
Sure. So our mission, as we say, is like to end fragmentation. So in the safety and security space, anything that we see that's fragmented, any areas that we feel that our customers need to go elsewhere to get the data that you need, that's what we're here to kind of break down silos and bring it all into one place. Now, our original launch of the product, Restrata platform, our last mile product in there enables you to digitize and operate your entire last mile. Of course, when that then escalates to an incident, and you're asking yourself across an incident management team, who's doing what are the checklists, what's the incident commander doing, what are HSC up to, what's the POB, all of these questions. Quite a few years ago, people were used to moving into what they would call the incident room, right? The room where the thing is being managed. People being in their sort of shirts top half, pajamas bottom half during the pandemic, it became very difficult to manage incidents remotely, and the data just wasn't available. So we found that the natural next step for us was to invest in and work on an incident crisis management system. And for that, it enables people to collaborate across an organization on an incident, of trying to avoid it from turning into a crisis, but also have all the information at their fingertips, flowing from the site upwards, what we call fence line to boardroom, and also enabling them to improve communications and run an incident quite well. And of course, there are systems out there, but I think where we are unique is that we are interconnected with every data source you would expect during an energy and industrial incident, and that's already been rolled out to our GOCC in Aberdeen for quite a number of clients. And it's already in play, and we've already seen a huge change in the way that incidents are being run. And obviously, don't forget, in companies, people that are on incident rotas maybe do it 3 or 4 times a year, so it's not really their full-time job. And so ease of use was a huge factor, and we put a lot of time and effort into making sure that people were up and running in 5 minutes. From logging on to ensuring that they can do everything in the system, we really focused on that ease of use. So yeah, we're really excited about the launch, and obviously more than happy to show it to anybody that wants to see it.
I bet you are, and it's probably definitely worth seeing. Thank you so much, Botan. We'll try and circle back at the end. Stuart waited patiently.
Thank you. Yeah.
Without a complaint.
It's very interesting listening to what everyone was saying. It's really good.
Absolutely. Congratulations on the cover story. You made it on the cover, and you're absolutely looking splendid. And it's a great article, the double pager in the. So those that know ProServe will know that there's the focus on reliability, there's focus on integrity, productivity of critical infrastructure, etc. The question around data access and technology, and how this can give operators and asset owners the competitive advantage was a vibe that I got from the article. Do you want to just expand a bit on that, Stuart?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been some really interesting activity going on in the market that captures really that sort of vibe. So you look at the aggressive bidding that was going on for Scott Wind between the various different major operators, and you put yourself in their shoes. They've got to put forward a business case for what the return on investment is going to be for that asset. So anything that technology can do to enhance the performance of ultimately what they're going to build and install, or indeed extend the life, and I might come on to that later, because it is interesting if you start thinking about extending the life of assets before they're even built. Really puts things in perspective, because ultimately, why would you do something? Why would you invest money? Save time, save money, or give you a competitive advantage. And to me, I don't think we talk about it enough in the digital and technology space. If an operator can improve their performance, if they have more visibility of where they're performing poorly, be it with their equipment, or be it that could be human error on processes or improvement of processes, anything that can be done to visualize that, to support continual improvements of when we talk about operations and things like that, is fundamentally how you gain competitive advantages over other companies. And I think we should talk about that more.
Very good. Yeah, absolutely. It's a shame having all of you guys with all your competence and specialism history on this, because what you want to talk about, we could have a 5-hour show just devoted to what you guys want to talk about, and we're trying to jam it into little 5-minute segments. But we spoke about back in the day we bought machines, we stuck the machines in, and we tried to fit the humans around the machines. Why is it important that we start to reimagine the sort of human-machine interface in design as moving forward? Why is that important now more than ever?
Well, obviously, we know pretty confidently, I think everyone would agree with this, that we're going to get more data, not less, as we go forwards. And it's an interesting topic because as a control system company, we know that things will ultimately become more automated, right? We know that's the direction things are going in. The data analytics and machine learning, that's ultimately become more automated with control systems, ultimately, when you talk about industrial hardware. However, we're on a journey to that end, which means that humans are still the critical interface. So we, as an industry, have a responsibility to maximize and enhance the performance of people by visualizing data and information to them so that they not only understand what's going on, but are also engaged and want to use tools, solutions, and the technology that comes out. Using some of the analogies earlier about phones and apps. If the first smartphones or an application isn't very easy to use, what's the first thing you do? You delete it. So you just think, well, that's rubbish. It's hard to use. It's not intuitive. It doesn't tell me what I want. And they just die and fall by the wayside. So we're not doing enough in industry to think about that. And particularly control system HMIs, because they've evolved through the space of the control room, which is a very tightly regulated environment, and rightly so. If it's critical infrastructure, there are laws and regulations that have to be followed. But when we start exploring the world of data analytics, which are real time, but outside of the control room, I don't think we do enough to imagine how we might want to display things. I think we do too much of mimicking what's in a control room, but give it to people that are onshore. And I don't think that's good enough.
Good point. I'm going to close this little section here. As I said, we could speak to you guys for a 5-hour special, but unfortunately it hasn't pulled their name through. But a great question. I'm just going to throw this open to the panel. Anyone want to grab it? What do you see as the biggest cultural challenge with driving innovation right now? Anyone want to grab it?
I'm happy to kick us off with it. We found that when we've had to implement for companies, one of the key areas is that obviously our software is used by a multitude of skill sets across the organization, whether that is the safety officers on the side all the way up to crisis managers sitting in the boardroom. And typically I think the focus really to get the culture right has to be on the user's delight, or kind of just design putting out a commercial piece of software out there like we just said. It's gonna do or die by how easy to use and how intuitive it is. I don't think there's enough focus on making it easy to use and intuitive for the users, so that before the buyers are interested in renewing you, the users are raving about your system. Now, of course, that's really difficult with an enterprise system because they're fundamentally not very exciting, right? But if you can focus on that, then you're not forcing people or kind of trying to drive huge change management processes. I think it's adoption by design rather than adoption by a huge change management process. And if you can do that, then the encouragement to kind of use them comes inherently through the software itself, and that's what we try to focus on. But wherever we've seen projects fail in the past, when other pieces of software have not really drawn up, and then you're already in a losing game.
Very good, great response, guys. We can speak to you all day. But we've come to the end of our little segment and we need to crack on. So we're going to say goodbye to Phil, to Stuart, to Botan, and to Paula. Thank you so much. Please get in touch with them if you'd like to extend that conversation personally. You can get in touch with them. Their contact details will be through here. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for our section on Industry Spotlight. See you soon.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Eric.
Eric.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
There we go. Perfect. So we're now on to the section of our show that we like to call a Market Watch. I'm going to bring on Alex Middleton and Neil Golding, and it's great to see you guys. How are you doing?
Hi, Eric. Good, thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Great to see you. So Alex, Senior Market Analyst with Westwood Global Energy Group, and Neil, Director of Market Intel at EIC. Who's going to start? We're going to go to Alex first.
Yeah, sure. I'll kick off. I've got
Would that work? Yeah.
updated slides for you. Yeah.
So this is a point to any questions coming in on anything to do with markets, economies, anything like that. These are the people to ask. So Alex, over to you.
Okay, great. I'll just share this with you. Let me know if you can see it fine.
Yeah, I'll just pull it up for you right now. There you go. Look at that. Beautiful.
Great, thank you. That's good. So just really to recap for any of the new viewers, Westwood Global Energy Group provides market data for OGV Energy's magazine, which covers the offshore field development, the offshore drilling rig, and offshore wind sectors. So I'm just going to give you a brief update from the March issue, and it's been provided by our expert analysts in each of these sectors. You will find this as well in the latest issue of the magazine. Starting with our offshore field update. You can just click this along.
There you go.
So
Perfect.
total,
Yes.
thank you. Total announced offshore oil and gas related EPC contract award value is at 10.9 billion year to date, and Westwood expects 61.8 billion to be awarded for the remainder of this year. So to provide a little context, this represents a 75% increase from last year's total EPC award value, which was at 41.5 billion. Looking briefly at the FPS throughput by sanction year, so that's floating production systems, we can see that there's 1,377,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day of liquids, 634 of gas, and 45 of LNG in 2022. Looking at the third chart, you see the subsea tree awards, and that's the number of trees awarded for 21 and 2022. So we had 175 trees sanctioned last year, and 318 are expected for this year. This is a slight downward revision from what we said last month. 6 have already been sanctioned. There are 65 trees on pre-order and 87 firm orders this year. There's not much change from last month with the offshore EPC awards that are expected from 2022 through to 2026. Petrobras still has over 30 billion. Again, a slight downward revision from last month's prediction, which was at 31 billion. So the key highlight for the period under review is that announced FID on Eni's Baleine field in the Ivory Coast, which is on a fast-track development timeline, and that's only 5 months after discovery. So the field startup is scheduled for late 2023. So Eni have stated that the project will be the first development in Africa at net zero emissions. So now to give you our brief offshore rig update. Global effective fleet utilization, as I mentioned last month, that excludes the cold stacked rigs. That's sitting level at 81% for jackups, dropping to 59% for the semi-subs, and continuing a rise for drill ships with 79% effective utilization. Looking at the jackup fleet globally, the latest rig count shows 344 are contracted globally, falling from 348 last month. The available and marketed jackups is at 80, while another 67 units are cold stacked. There was one jackup, the Valaris 37, which exited the global fleet. There were 13 new fixtures recorded for the month, with an average fixture rate of $80,000 per day. That's slightly higher than the average last month, which was at $75,000 per day. The 30 new contracts accounted for 6.8 rig years awarded. With the semi-submersible fleet, it currently stands at 101 units, with 49 of those contracted, 34 available and marketed for work, and 18 cold stacked. There was one semi-sub sold for scrap this month, and another was sold for non-drilling use. The contract backlog improved by 271 days, and there were 11 new fixtures recorded. A total of 4.7 rig years were awarded with an average day rate of 262,000 per day. That's a huge improvement from last month with an average on new fixtures for 224,000 per day. Looking now quickly at the drillship fleet. So there's 62 drillships under contract, 16 available and marketed for work, and another 17 units cold stacked. The fleet didn't register any attrition this month, but there was one new build unit, the Cobalt Explorer, which was delivered. There were 5 new drillship fixtures for the month, 4 of which were in the US Gulf of Mexico. And these 4 deals averaged 360 days in duration and saw an average day rate of $334,000 per day. So the 5th fixture, which was for the aforementioned Cobalt Explorer, is going to be working long-term for the Turkish Petroleum Corporation. And finally, just giving you our offshore wind update. So the first pie chart shows the offshore wind turbines awarded from 2019 to this year to date. And we can see that Siemens makes up 54% of the market in terms of the number of wind turbine generators. The middle bar chart shows the wind turbines awarded and expected in 2023. So just under 950 turbines were awarded in 2021, and Westwood expects under 500 this year, but increasing substantially to 1,700 turbines in 2023. And in the final pie chart, we can see that the Western Europe market makes up 46% of the total global market when looking at expected awards through to 2023. Since the last update, there's been a total of 100 megawatts of capacity advancing onto the EPCI stage, with FID taken on the 100 megawatt Hanlim development offshore South Korea. So a total of 18 turbines will be installed at this project. And dominating the headlines were results from the recent New York Bight offshore wind auction, which generated a record-breaking $4.4 billion in revenue for the US Treasury. So a total of 25 companies and consortiums have been pre-qualified by the US Bureau of Ocean Energy Management to participate in the auction, which took 3 days and 64 bidding rounds. What's interesting about this one is the awarded lease areas will count for at least 5.6 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity, and on average, $8,800 was paid per acre. So this is making it the most expensive offshore wind lease auction round in the US. So that's kind of a brief overview from me.
It's fantastic, and as a point, it's just great. It's just great to see it all. And if anybody if anybody's thinking, "Oh, I forgot to write that down," or "I forgot to do whatever," we can turn to page 42 and 43 of this month's OGV Energy magazine, and most of that stuff, certainly a version of it, is available there if you want to follow up. And of course, you could contact Alex, and I'm sure she would happily enter into a conversation about helping you get that data on a more regular basis. Just in closing from yourself, Alex, given the high oil price, do you guys see any immediate effect on offshore field development?
So we haven't seen an immediate effect as such. When we look at what's happened in the last month in terms of EPC contract award value, it's totaled 400 million, which is quite muted. That's since the 17th of March. So I would suggest it be more of a medium and long-term changes in developing, which we'll keep a close eye on.
Very good. Thank you so much, Alex. Neil, you waited there patiently, and I'm sure I think your mic issues from last week or last month are gone.
I certainly hope so, Eric. And it was great to be able to listen to all of Alex's insight.
It really was, isn't it? It's so insightful. So let's tap into your vast knowledge. Can I just be really cheeky and just go straight in on current news, current topics? Can I just ask about energy security? Given the situation we're seeing in Russia, Ukraine right now, What impacts are you guys seeing on this sort of global project landscape, particularly for gas developments or anything else?
Yeah, unlike the impact on the oil projects, it's been rapid, frankly, the changes that we've seen in terms of the gas developments. And obviously Russian LNG ambitions have been hit, and we've seen several operators not proceeding with investment, and sanctions, of course, are impacting the availability to technology. So projects like Arctic LNG and Sakhalin LNG are now in jeopardy. And as a consequence as well of the access to piped gas from Russia, Europe is also looking right now at making up the shortfall of gas. And it's really Europe where I want to start the focus here. And Italy has announced just this week, and all this news is just over the course of the last week. Italy is planning to install 2 floating storage regasification units, and that's to boost their imports as part of plans to ensure that they cut reliance upon Russian gas. They've mandated Snam to negotiate the acquisition of an FSRU and also the leasing of a second one. The 2 vessels of these will have a combined capacity of more than 10 billion cubic meters. And if we go Northern Europe, only in February of this year, a proposed facility in Hamburg was not showing any signs of moving forward at any great pace. Now, 1 month ahead, and what a difference a month makes right now.
Yeah.
The planning approval process, which began in 2021, is now moving forward at breakneck speed. And the EPC contractor, who's a combination of Cobra and Senna, will now start with preparatory work for that. And then even more so in the Netherlands, it's quite remarkable. We've had a project called Eemshaven LNG project, which has basically been on hold since 2010. Gasunie have now revived that particular project, and they've actually already awarded a 5-year charter to Exma for an FSRU, which will become operational in Q3 of 2022. So that's the import side of things. But I think one thing to recognise, Eric, here is that activities linked to gas were already increasing prior to what we're seeing in Russia, Ukraine. For example, we saw the final investment decision reached on Pluto LNG 2 project in November 2021, which will also incorporate the development of the Scarborough gas field. Discussions have been advancing recently on the Tanzania LNG development, and that will require the involvement of developing vast offshore resources. And we have seen significant awards made linked to in Qatar, linked to the LNG liquefaction developments, and that also involves redevelopment and substantial work on the North Field as well. And no doubt we'll probably see more activity in the US, and perhaps speeding up of USN LNG liquefaction developments in that market as well.
Very good. I suspect, given the fact that it's been so quiet in the chat for a little while, that there might be a little problem with people posting comments. What we might do is, I'm sure they'll appear on the recording of this when we finish it. What we might do is circle back, and I'll just ask you guys if there's any questions, because I know lots of people have questions for you guys, to maybe just jump into the comments and see if there's anything that we can answer specifically. In the meantime, given the high oil prices, are you expecting to see activities pick up? If so, any specific countries that we should be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think that we're definitely going to have to see activities pick up, and I think Alex's images there on the rig side of things were made for interesting reading as well, and already points to the fact that there's these longer leases being proposed, that activity will pick up. All the major producers, Saudi Arabia as one kind of producer, and Aramco in particular, have announced that they're going to raise their spending over the course of the next year to $40 to $50 billion. ADNOC have made a slight adjustment to what they're going to spend over the course of the next 5 years. And US shale, relatively cheap to produce, and I'm sure that we'll see a ramp up of activity there. In from the cold as well, Venezuela, of course, conversations being had right now between the US and Venezuela, and talks developing with Iran as well. So I think that there's definitely going to be pickup in activity. And again, Alex, you pointed out Brazil. That is definitely a market where we foresee that there's going to be an increase in activity over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. And it'd be interesting to see what happens in West Africa. Nigeria's had a whole load of projects basically on hold for a number of years now. It'll be interesting to see, given this high oil price, whether those do move forward, or whether the majors that focus on those particular projects look at those easier to develop prospects.
Very good. Now, given how we started the show today with Luca and some of the our comments are coming back on. Fantastic. Glad your mic is working this week, Neil. Hey, people remember this stuff. Given how we started the show and given your response to previous questions, what do you see as implications for growth in the clean tech sectors?
Yeah, so while short term, certainly in Europe anyway, the energy security issue is something that needs to be resolved. But however, the need to decarbonise isn't going to go away anytime soon. And so there's going to be that requirement, of course, for diverse portfolios of projects and investment across all sectors for key energy suppliers. And that would be including the majors and NOCs. That will, of course, include increased investment across the renewable sectors globally. In particular, I see offshore wind as an area where we're going to see rapid growth. New markets always emerging, and it was interesting again, Alex, pointing back to your presentation there, the US latest leasing round. But of course, there's activities across Asia Pacific as well right now, and there's no sign of offshore wind growth slowing down at all. But there are other technologies as well that we'll see come through. I'm sure that may be longer term, and I think nuclear as well, often not talked about, but I think that also has a potentially key role to play for baseload electricity and baseload power. And we're at the forefront in terms of some of the newer technologies, and led by Rolls-Royce in terms of small modular and advanced modular reactors as well. It could be the argument as well that those increased revenues being generated from oil and gas will help speed up and advance the development of some of these carbon capture and hydrogen projects as well in the UK. So I think that it's all pointing to potentially boom time across all of the energy sectors, which is extremely exciting. But I think there's one thing that just to be aware of, that there are supply chain constraints potentially down the road as well. We're already beginning to see that in some sectors, difficulty in getting materials. So this is something that will need to be tackled relatively soon, I think it's fair to say, for us to ensure that we continue to see the growth in the clean tech sectors going forward.
Fantastic, guys. Thank you for sharing your insight and your knowledge. Note to self, when interviewing Neil and Alex, get a higher chair. And I'll certainly try and sort that out for next time. An absolute pleasure to spend some time with you. Please drop these guys a note if you'd like to extend the conversation, and we shall see you guys next month.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Alex.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now. Thanks, Alex. Bye-bye. So we're now moving on to the last section of our show, which is the OGV Community News, where we invite our community members to come on and share their stories. I'm going to start by bringing on Mike Adams, and then I'm going to bring on John Bloomfield, and then I'm going to bring on Andy Reid. How are you guys?
It's very well, thank you, Eric.
Great, Eric.
Excellent. So Mike from Norwell Edge, Andy from Safer Training, director over there, and John, who's on location in a hotel right now for Full Motion.
On location in the cocktail bar of Dundee and Hydro. Unfortunately, there are no cocktails.
No cocktails.
No bar.
Yet, indeed. Thank you guys for being so patient and waiting for us. This is our community news section, so you guys are part of the OGV community. So welcome. We're going to start with you, Mike. For those who don't know Norwell Edge, could you just give us a little bit of an update on what it is that you guys focus on, what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So we spun out of Norwell Engineering, well engineering consultancy, looking at quite technical subjects, and really our kind of reason to exist was, let's find a way to get those quite restricted technical areas into the hands of more people, using the newest digital training technology that we could get our hands on at the time, which since that over the last 5 years has totally transformed, especially over the last 2 years. And on a day-to-day basis, we're just trying to get that information out to engineers, people onshore, people offshore, all around the world.
I guess if you were to sum up one of your biggest sort of like buzz phrases over the last wee while, it's been collaboration, right?
Yes.
Collaboration's been key for you. Do you want to just run us through some of the sort of key collaborative efforts that have been going on within Norwell Edge? Yeah,
definitely. I think for us, digitization in training has always been, an amazing opportunity to try and get more people involved, and especially for kind of book-heavy subjects. or really kind of technical dry subjects, it's a really good way to get more and more people involved. And you know, the digital technology alone doesn't do that. You need partners and clients and all the stakeholders aligning to agree that yes, we can use these new digital tools to try and get some of these maybe you know, harder to access subjects, you know, out into the masses. But yeah, that really does hinge on collaboration, and we've been super lucky over the last.
So it's not just taking the 250-page manual and photocopying it and sticking it online and making people read it.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, and even it's even not just individual companies or individual people and individual companies having the idea to, okay, let's digitize that. Let's make some really engaging e-learning. That can only end up with 20 people or 50 people. And with these tools, you can access hundreds and thousands of people at any one time. And that really does require some serious cooperation and collaboration between companies. And yeah, that's what really we've been, over the last 2 years, our big push has been a major industry collaboration with TACA, Spirit, Neptune, Total, and Premier, then merging into Harbour, to take Oil and Gas UK well integrity standards based on recommendations from Oil and Gas UK, and standardize a package of training around those standards and get them out to not just the people in the offices or the well integrity engineers or the more technical people, but get them offshore, get people accessing it offshore, really distilling that content down, and yeah, getting more information in the hands of people who actually spot things when they go wrong, you know, at the coalface.
Very good, very good. And any good news stories that you're willing to or able to share with us about what's happening within Norwell Edge?
Yeah, I mean, we're actually still in the midst of that collaboration. So we're, you know, it's an ongoing effort. We're not finished. There's a lot of courses to do. So we're in the final phase of doing that collaboration, and on our horizon now is doing a very similar collaboration in the decommissioning space again. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to both with those operators, but other operators as well. Now that we have that example of it is possible to get all of these big guys in a room and working together, and yeah, you just gotta keep everyone on the same page, but it can work, and I think it can work in a lot of other areas.
I love that. You've got one of the best elevator pitches I've ever heard. Distilling highly technical subjects into easily accessible, absorbable chunks. I love that. It's absolutely fantastic. We'll circle back with you in a second. Remember, we've got these last three guys. These are the last three people here today. And they like to be asked questions. So please come in and ask them questions. Andy Reid, such a pleasure to see you. The first person that's taken us into the operational hub. Andy, what is that behind you?
Hi, Eric. Yeah, what you see behind me here is our innovative free-fall simulator for lifeboat coxswains. What we've actually done is removed a lot of the risk which is associated with the training conventionally. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So is this part of what Safer Training focuses on? Is this part of a sort of suite of training packages that you do in the safety sphere?
Yeah. What our main business is actually assisting new or current training providers to achieve a PETO accreditation. And that includes myself in that as well. What we do is, because it's quite difficult to actually achieve these standards, it's even harder to maintain them. So we go in there and help with the new and current training providers. Saves them a lot of time. We go in and do all the hard work, and they just keep it going. And we help
They take
them,
all the glory. They take all the glory. So could you explain to everyone what the benefits are of actual lifeboats coxswains using that simulator rather than conventional boat in the water type training?
Yeah, absolutely. With using the simulator, we can replicate things that they can't do, go up and down a river, around an enclosed harbour, things like that, especially launching at night. If there's going to be an emergency, when's it going to happen? It's going to happen at night time, adverse weather conditions, high sea states. We've never ever had the opportunity to give this training to the lifeboat coxswains offshore. Okay, now we have. So they can learn more and are better learning conditions as well. There's nothing worse than being out in the sea come January. The guys are not interested. It's as simple as that. And that's what they tell us. They're not interested. They just want the course to finish and get away because it's too cold. Whereas we've brought everything inside, nice and warm conditions, safer conditions. So that's the main benefits of it. Plus,
I love it. When I'm just thinking back to lifeboat coxswain training when I did it many years ago myself. It was a lovely sunny day. We had coveralls round our waist. We went out for a little pootle out the harbour, and we came back in, and we got a lifeboat coxswain's ticket, and that was great. But
nothing has changed, Eric, and that's the sad thing. Nothing has changed. We're preparing the guys actually to fail by doing that, and not giving them the environment to expect in. Yeah. So what we can do with this, the simulators, is replicate exactly the weather conditions that they're going to see out in the North Sea, 150, 200 miles offshore. And the end user, the actual coxswains themselves, love it.
I bet they do. Give us your good news stories. It sounds like you guys might have won some significant contracts recently.
Yes, we won a good contract out in the Middle East in Qatar, a 5-year contract with Qatar Gas. Another company, GDI, they're the biggest drilling contractor out there. We've got a 3-year deal with them. We're also working with the national oil company, Qatar Energy, Total, all the main players out in the Middle East, also here in the UK as well. And we've just opened up a training centre in partnership with OATC down in Cape Town, South Africa, and also in Ghana as well with True Blue as partners. So we're actually partnering Relying UTech out in the Middle East and Qatar as well, given we've put our simulators out there and using their facilities.
Fabulous! Great to hear so much success in the OGV community. Thank you so much for your time. I just love that setup. Oh, whoa!
It's just launched.
Whoa! It was like that came alive there. My goodness me! I bet you get a few green gills coming out of that. Do you have sick bags in there?
We do have sick bags, but they've never ever been used. And touchwood, they never do. It'll be a mess.
That just caught me completely off guard there. Whoa! It's going to fall over. Thank you, Andy. Magic, and great to see that. That's phenomenal. John, you're the man that's closing the show. John Bloomfield, how are you doing?
Hi, Eric. Yes, good. It's been a busy day. I've been at an offshore wind networking event down in Dunblane. It's been very, very busy, very positive. I think people are just glad to get out and meet face to face again.
Absolutely. For those that don't know, what have you been talking to them about in terms of what FillMotion is doing these days? Just a bit of a refresher on what it is that you do and a bit of a brief company history, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, FillMotion, we're a UK-based remotely operated vehicle, or ROV company. We've been providing subsea solutions, integrity management services to clients globally within the offshore energy sector since 2004. So this year represents our 18th year in business. And we've been growing organically and consistently over that time. In 2019, FillMotion became part of the STAPEM group, which employs over 500 employees across the globe. And our current facility is based in Ellen, just north of Aberdeen. And we've got a modern office facility with a full technical workshop, test facilities, and obviously a large storage yard that supports all our worldwide deployments. And over the years, we've built up a wealth of experience, and quite often in the harshest of environments, the North Sea being one of them. Initially in the oil and gas sector, and latterly serving the offshore wind sector, and as well as a lot of work we've completed on offshore fixed and floating platforms. We've also successfully completed over 100 UWILD, or underwater inspection in lieu of dry dock operations on FPSOs across the globe. And within the years that we've been doing that, we've developed some some special equipment, some patented equipment. We have a patented mooring chain measuring system for the FPSO mooring lines, which enables the ROV to take measurements and do condition checks. And we've also developed a modular launch and recovery system that can be easily disassembled and moved around the FPSO work site as necessary. So that's a sort of potted history of.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Lots of companies have stayed still or shrunk a little bit over the lockdown period. Same story for you guys, or slightly different?
No, I think, to be honest, we've bucked the trend. Throughout the lockdown period, the company has really looked after all of us. No one was furloughed. We put in force all the government guidelines and the ever-changing guidelines for the office and the workshop. Many of us started to work from home. I actually did my first 2 weeks in a caravan on the drive because I thought it was only going to go for 2 weeks, but that wasn't going to last. But no, it's been really good. An investment continued over the 2-year lockdown period, and in fact, we increased headcount by over 50% over the last 2 years. And we do anticipate a further creation of around 40 or 50 offshore roles and some further onshore staff positions to support ongoing contract awards and our growing fleet of ROVs. So if anybody's interested, all current positions are on our website. If you look on the careers page, it'd be lovely to hear from you. And we are actively continuing to recruit. We've had a recruitment drive on for probably 12 months for offshore personnel, and it means that we've got a highly talented skill pool that are there to operate our equipment, and if problems occur, they're there to sort the problems out. And that quite often, that's the measure of the man, as they say. And I think back in 2020, we invested in our first work class system. So we were traditionally involved in the smaller ROV systems, the sort of thing about the size of a suitcase. You could lift it up and you could move it around, and all of a sudden this thing the size of a mini appeared in the workshop and dramatically changed our work scope. It's a 150 horsepower system, and a few months later it was quickly followed by a second Quasar work class system. And then not too long after that, we invested another six-figure sum in a 4,000 meter depth rated work class ROV, the Schilling Heavy Duty work class. And that's supported by an active heave compensated launch and recovery system. So all in all, a very important and powerful piece of kit that allowed us to bid and complete on projects that previously we just wouldn't have been able to support.
Very good.
Latterly, we are obviously in the UK continental shelf, but also in the Mediterranean, West Africa, Angola, Ghana, and the Ivory Coast. And we've got 3 ROV systems that are permanently based in Angola to support operations there.
Keeping you busy, keeping you all busy, and it's lovely to see so much positivity, as I said, in the OGV community members. Guys, we're getting towards the end of the show now. I just wanted to thank you for your time. If you want to get in touch with these guys, Andy at Safer Training, John at FilmOcean, or Mike at Norwell Edge, get in touch with them, extend the conversation. That's what this is all about. Thank you so much, guys, and we will see you again. Thank you very much. I'll let you all go. That's it. So we're just about to wrap up. Just before we go, I'd like to draw your attention to a fantastic event that OGV Energy are running in partnership with Energy Transition Zone. So it's a marker for your diary. It's Thursday, April the 28th at P&J Live. And I have a nice slide for this, actually. I'm going to just pull this up so you can take a screenshot of this and have a look. I hope you can see that. So the event is called the Data-Driven Energy Transition. It's happening to communicate how the energy industry will be using technology and data-driven solutions to help facilitate energy transition. And over the day, there's going to be presentations and panel sessions from industry bodies, academia, institutions, energy operators, and technology companies discussing key industry challenges and potential solutions to those challenges. There's also going to be a substantial exhibition area for supply chain to showcase some of the technology that's going to make this happen. So if you'd like to exhibit or just go along for the day, jump on the Eventbrite page. That Eventbrite link is going to go in the comment section, probably round about now. Yeah, that is well worth taking note of and well worth getting involved in. So just in closing, I'd like to thank all of our guests today for letting us have a window into their busy lives and an insight into their knowledge and their experience and competence. We'd like to thank you for taking the time out to join with us and getting involved in the interaction, which is absolutely awesome. I'd personally like to thank the show's producer, Dan Hyland, and the designer, Ben Mackay. We look forward to seeing you all again on Thursday, April the 21st at 2 p.m, when the theme of the OGV Energy magazine will be on new energy. So we will see you then. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you again.